If you've ever restored an old car, you know it's not always an easy path. There's pitfalls, things that could jump out and surprise you. So when my brother-in-law Mike found a 1966 Mustang Fastback that had a lot of its sheet metal replaced with new Dynacorn sheet metal, it had a new 5-liter motor with it, and 5-speed transmission out of a 92 Fox body, I advised him to buy it. Mike had wanted a Fastback for quite some time, but navigating the used Mustang marketplace for this type of car can be quite difficult. A nicely done Fastback can be north of $60,000. The cars that are in the $25,000 to $35,000 range are typically older restorations. You don't really know what you're getting with one of those. Many of these were done in the 80s and 90s when these cars weren't so valuable, and back then shortcuts happened. Pop rivets were something that people used, or they just used whatever they had laying around because, once again, these cars weren't worth a lot of money. He had looked at several of those cars, and I advised him against buying one of those because if you get into that vehicle and you find yourself wanting to make it a little bit better, as soon as you take some sandpaper or grinder to it, that's when you find out what you actually have. So if you buy one of those vehicles that's 25 to 35, you can easily see yourself doubling that amount of money, if not more, to put it into the condition of a nice vehicle. This video is going to cover the last 2 years of this restoration process, the ups, the downs, the triumphs, the tragedies. If you've been through this before, you can relive this. I'm sure some things will jump up from the past for you. If you haven't done this type of restoration before but are considering it, buckle up for the ride and let's get started. We're going to pick up the story where it started about 2 years ago with a non-running, non-driving, rough-coated, half-assembled 1966 Mustang Fastback. The car was brought to Mike's garage on a French trailer. He wanted to sort out all the mechanical work first. It needed to start, run, and drive before he went any further. The engine was fresh, but missing many of the parts needed to complete it. Luckily, finding parts for a 92 Fox body 5.0 liter is relatively easy and not that expensive. The water pump, alternator, pulleys, belts, rear brakes were added, as were new brake lines and a new fuel line. Mike sorted out a new radiator and installed the Shelby style exhaust system. Mike put in the time and money and sorted a lot of this stuff out himself, but when it came to fine-tuning the engine and carburetor, he called in a friend with some expertise, Dean. So a big shout out to Dean for helping getting the mechanical details sorted out and the carburetor squared away. Now, this was Mike's first real restoration. He and his father did the bodywork on his 65 Falcon and dropped an engine in that car as well, but that was a driver restoration. This car was going to be a nice car, one he could take to shows and be proud of. So the bodywork and paint would have to be trusted to someone that knew what this car meant to him and could deliver on his vision of a Shelby Tribute. Mike enlisted someone he went to high school with, Bob Yo. Bob had been a body man for well over 30 years and had a shop near his home and wouldn't charge Mike for any work that he was willing to do himself under Bob's direction, and Mike was willing to do whatever, whenever. Over the next few months, Mike and Bob put in many late nights and weekends, block sanding, aligning, marking panels, priming, block sanding primer, until the Mustang was completely straight. If you've done this type of work, you understand it's hundreds of hours, if you want the car to be right. Bob understood exactly what Mike was shooting for, and he intended to deliver. They spray the car with the final coat of fill primer and block sand again until it's ready for sealer. The car is now near perfect. It's disassembled yet again in order to spray the hood, deck lid, and fenders while they're off the car. This is when tragedy enters the story. Bob had wanted to spend a weekend with his grandchildren at his camp before making the final push to get color on the car. While at camp, Bob suffers a major heart attack. This heart attack proved to be fatal. Now, Bob and Mike had gotten closer during the process of working on this car together. Mike's father, my father-in-law, had passed away a couple of months prior to the car moving to Bob's place. Working on a car and talking things out with a friend can be a positive distraction during a time of grief, and this time was just that for Mike. Losing Bob at this time set Mike back emotionally. On top of the loss of a friend, his car was at the family shop, which was behind their home and far from complete. Mike decides it's best to give the family all the space they require to deal with their loss. A few weeks go by, services are held, and the family reaches out to Mike to let him know that if he can find someone to paint the car, he's welcome to use the shop and paint booth. They decide that's what Bob would have wanted. This was a very considerate gesture on their part. Mike now searches for the second time to find someone who is competent, willing, and able to paint the car. He enlists a talented painter and neighbor of Bob's named Gary. Gary knew Bob, understood the situation Mike was in, and was willing to spray the car. The car gets its base coat of sealer, then 2 coats of PPG paint, and Mike enlists yet another friend, Todd, of 725 Designs to help him lay out the striping. The over-the-top stripes are laid down, and the car is given 2 coats of PPG Glamour Clear. Paint complete, the car is shipped to R.S. Wertz Auto Detailing. Randy, the owner, has been wet sanding and buffing cars in the Harrisburg area for the better part of 35 years. The man knows what he's doing. He gets the clear to the proper depth, and the car is shipped back to Mike's house. Mike begins the process of sorting out the wiring harness and getting the lights to work. This sounds easy, but when you are not the person that disassembled a car, it makes things a bit more difficult. As Mike gets these things working, he final assembles things. Taillight bezels, headlamp doors, door panels. He gets a rally pack and installs it in the car because he always wanted one. Now, I told Mike this is a time that I enjoy working on a car. I believe Mike heard me say this at least a few times, as this is where I step into the equation. I've assembled plenty of first-gen Mustangs. Not a 66, mind you, but several 67s, a 68, a 70, and a couple of Torinos over the years, so yeah, this is where I got drafted. One night we get the front and rear bumpers mounted, another we install the clips for the trim molding, another we get the horn working and start on the rear interior, another day we spend way too much time installing the fold-down rear seat that Mike refurbished with new carpet and chrome trim. There were numerous other tasks that were handled when we worked together. However, it's kind of a blur now, but it's mostly a fun time. New Magnum 500 rims and BF Goodrich radial TAs are installed, and the car finally gets a front-end alignment. The person that Mike bought the car from installed quality components, but just tossed them on the car to make it a roller. Once these tasks are completed, Mike gets a friend, Scott King of Scott King's Glassworks, to install new front and rear glass. Mike and I install the polished window trim, he works on the door seals, and Dean and him work out the final couple of nagging carb issues, and the car is complete. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. Are you?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's do it.
The Shelby GT350 ran and looked the part. There are a couple of things that need addressed. The grip rail moldings need to be fitted and the power steering box was leaking, but Mike has the parts and should have no issues making it to the Ford Nationals in Carlisle. If you see him, stop by, check out the car, and say hey. This is the look of a guy who is happy with the results of his labor. It's now 2 years since Mike first purchased the car. He wanted to have it ready for this year's Carlisle Ford Nationals, and the car looks great. He's going to be able to make it. There are a few takeaways from this journey that may be relevant to you. Mike did a lot of this work himself, or he knew people that could do this type of work and help him on the price and kind of guide him along the path. If you have one of these vehicles and you don't necessarily like doing this type of work, you're going to have to take it to somebody. And it's going to cost you a lot more. You're paying for an expert's time. And while they can get things done quicker than, say, Mike or myself, they also charge you for that. If you don't enjoy this type of work, don't even consider doing it. You're going to run into hassles and headaches and things that you just didn't anticipate, and you'll end up hating the car and resenting the fact that you even consider doing the project. Having the ability to do this type of work and the place to do it in is very important. Mike has a nice garage. He's got a lift there. That's helpful. He's got a good amount of tools. The other thing he has is a good network of friends that have been through this process before. Not that they're always going to step up and lend a hand, but most people are willing to listen to you and give you their opinion as to how they proceed. Not that you always take their advice or their opinion, but it's nice to have options, and it's always best to make an informed decision. Mike wanted to thank the folks that helped him along the way, and I've attempted to do so in this video. There's quite a few others out there, and we'll throw some pictures up here so you can see who those folks are. Outside of Mike, the person that had the largest impact on ultimately how this car came out, sadly, is no longer with us. Mike put a tribute to Bob Yo on the deck lid of his vehicle, His name will be on this car as a tribute to his final project, as long as Mike owns this car. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button, that way other people see it. Also consider subscribing. There's plenty of videos like this on the channel, like these two over here, one when Mike picked up the vehicle and another when he finally got the thing running. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Till next time, we'll see you.